Something doesn't add up, and fans around the world are starting to notice. When Caitlin Clark was officially named MVP at the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifiers, it should have been a moment of celebration. After all, she helped Team USA go undefeated and delivered elite performances throughout the tournament. But instead of applause, controversy exploded. Social media flooded with accusations. Fans claimed the MVP voting system had been manipulated, with some even alleging bots were used to influence the outcome. Suddenly, what should have been a historic moment turned into one of the most debated MVP races in recent memory. And then came the breaking point. FIBA finally responded. What they said shocked everyone. Was the MVP race rigged? Was Caitlin Clark unfairly targeted? Yeah, or is there something much bigger happening behind the scenes of international basketball? Stay with me, because this story is deeper than anyone expected. The rise of Caitlin Clark has been nothing short of extraordinary, and honestly, almost unprecedented in modern basketball. Before she ever stepped onto an international court wearing Team USA colors, she had already built a reputation as one of the most electrifying players the game had ever seen. Her time in college basketball wasn't just successful, it was transformational. She didn't just win games, she changed how people watched women's basketball entirely. Fans tuned in not just to see who would win, but to see what Caitlin Clark would do next. Would she pull up from the logo, deliver a no-look assist, drop 30 points and a half? With her, anything felt possible. And that's exactly why expectations were sky-high heading into the FIBA Women's World Cup qualifiers. This wasn't just another tournament. This was her introduction to the global stage. A chance to prove that her dominance wasn't limited to college or domestic leagues, but that she could perform under international pressure, against different styles of play, and against some of the best players in the world. From the very first game, it was clear that Caitlin Clark wasn't intimidated. She stepped onto the court with confidence, control, and a level of composure that immediately stood out. While many players take time to adjust to international rules and pace, Clark seemed to adapt instantly. Her court vision remained elite. Her shooting range stretched defenses beyond comfort. And her ability to control tempo made Team USA look even more organized and dangerous. But what really stood out wasn't just her individual performance, it was her impact on the entire team. Basketball isn't just about scoring points. It's about leadership, spacing, timing, and decision-making. And Clark excelled in all of it. She made her teammates better. She created opportunities out of nothing. She turned defensive pressure into offensive advantage within seconds. Game after game, Team USA dominated. They went up against strong international teams, squads that were disciplined, experienced, and physically tough. Spain tried to slow the pace. Italy focused on defensive pressure. Puerto Rico brought energy and aggression. But no matter the strategy, Team USA found answers. And at the center of it all was Caitlin Clark. She wasn't always the top scorer in every single game, but that's what made her performance even more impressive. She didn't need to force shots or chase stats. Instead, she controlled the game in ways that don't always show up in the box score. A perfectly timed pass, a quick decision under pressure, a momentum-shifting three-pointer. These are the moments that define great players, and Clark delivered them consistently. By the end of the tournament, Team USA had a perfect record. Undefeated, dominant, convincing. Naturally, conversations started building around who would be named MVP. And for many fans, the answer felt obvious. Caitlin Clark had been the face of the team, the engine of the offense, and one of the most consistent performers throughout the tournament. She brought excitement, leadership, and results, all at once. So when the official announcement came in, it didn't surprise anyone at first. Caitlin Clark was named MVP. On paper, it made complete sense. But in today's world, especially in sports, nothing stays simple for long. Within minutes of the announcement, reactions began pouring in across social media. At first, it was the usual mix: congratulations, highlights, praise from fans and analysts. But then, something shifted. A different kind of conversation started gaining traction. Instead of celebrating the achievement, some fans began questioning it. They weren't just debating whether Clark deserved the MVP. That's normal in sports. MVP debates happen all the time. But this was different. This wasn't just disagreement. This was suspicion. Some users began pointing out what they believed were inconsistencies in the voting process, and others claimed that certain players had equally strong or even better statistical performances. A few even suggested that the decision had been influenced by popularity rather than pure performance. And then came the claims that changed everything. Bots. Yes, bots. Suddenly, posts began circulating online suggesting that automated accounts had been used to manipulate public perception around the MVP race. Some users claimed that polls, fan votes, or online discussions had been artificially boosted in favor of Caitlin Clark. The idea spread quickly, too quickly. In the age of social media, it doesn't take long for a theory, whether true or not, to explode into a full-blown controversy. Hashtags started trending. Videos were made analyzing voting patterns. Threads broke down timelines, engagement spikes, and suspicious activity. And just like that, what should have been a celebration turned into a debate, and then into a storm. Now, instead of talking about Clark's performance, people were asking completely different questions. Was the MVP decision influenced by online pressure? Were fan votes manipulated? Was there a bias towards star power? And perhaps the biggest question of all, was the system fair? For Caitlin Clark, this was an unexpected turn. Athletes train their entire lives for moments like this. To win, to be recognized, to be celebrated. But sometimes success brings controversy along with it, and in this case, the spotlight became even brighter and harsher. Because now, it wasn't just about basketball anymore, it was about credibility. It was about trust. It was about whether one of the biggest rising stars in the sport had truly earned her moment, or whether something behind the scenes had influenced the outcome. And as the noise grew louder, everyone began waiting for one thing: an official response. Because when controversy reaches this level, silence is no longer an option. Fans wanted answers, analysts wanted clarity, and the basketball world wanted the truth. And soon enough, FIBA would respond. But what they said would only make things even more intense. As the controversy continued to spread across social media, the conversation quickly shifted from speculation to investigation, at least in the eyes of the fans. What started as a few scattered comments suddenly turned into a full-blown online movement. People weren't just reacting anymore, they were digging. Then threads began appearing on platforms like X and Instagram, where users claimed to have analyzed engagement patterns surrounding the MVP announcement. Some pointed to sudden spikes in activity, thousands of likes, retweets, and comments appearing within seconds. Others claimed that certain accounts promoting Caitlin Clark all followed the same behavior patterns: newly created profiles, minimal content, and repetitive messaging. To many, this wasn't just coincidence. It looked coordinated, and that's when the word bots became the center of the entire narrative. Now, whether these claims were accurate or not didn't matter in that moment. What mattered was perception, and the perception was quickly turning against the integrity of the MVP process. Fans began asking deeper, more serious questions. If bots were involved, who was behind them? Were they influencing fan votes? Did they actually affect the final decision? Or was this just an exaggerated theory blown out of proportion? The uncertainty only made things worse. Because in the absence of clear information, people tend to fill in the gaps themselves, and not always with facts. Sports analysts and content creators jumped into the conversation, each offering their own perspective. Some defended Caitlin Clark, arguing that her performance alone justified the MVP award regardless of any online noise. Others remained skeptical, saying that even the possibility of manipulation needed to be taken seriously. But there was one critical detail that many fans didn't fully understand. How exactly is the FIBA MVP decided? Unlike some leagues where fan voting plays a significant role, international tournaments like this typically rely on a combination of factors, including media votes, expert panels, and official committees. While fan engagement may influence narratives, it doesn't always directly determine the winner. And yet, that nuance was getting lost in the chaos, because once a narrative takes hold online, it becomes incredibly difficult to control. The algorithm doesn't prioritize truth, it prioritizes engagement. And controversy spreads faster than anything. Soon, major sports pages began picking up the story. Headlines started using words like investigation, manipulation, and controversy. Even though no official evidence had been confirmed, the situation was already being framed as something serious. For Caitlin Clark, but this was a moment that should have been about recognition. But instead, it was turning into a test of resilience. Imagine working your entire career to reach a milestone like this, only to have it overshadowed by accusations you had nothing to do with. That's the reality of modern sports. The bigger you become, the bigger the spotlight, and the bigger the scrutiny. Some of Clark's supporters pushed back strongly. They argued that this entire situation was unfair and rooted in jealousy or bias. They pointed out that Clark had been under intense criticism ever since she entered the global stage, with some people eager to discredit her success at every opportunity. Others, however, believed that asking questions wasn't an attack. It was necessary. They weren't accusing Clark directly, but rather questioning the system around her. And that distinction became very important because the debate was no longer just about one player. It was about transparency. It was about whether governing bodies like FIBA were doing enough to ensure fairness and trust in their processes. And as the pressure mounted, one thing became clear. FIBA could not stay silent any longer. The organization had built its reputation on integrity and global respect. As one of the most powerful governing bodies in international basketball, its decisions carry weight, and credibility is everything. If fans begin to lose trust, even slightly, it can have long-term consequences. So internally, discussions were happening. How serious were these claims? Was there any actual evidence of manipulation? Should they respond publicly or let the situation die down on its own? Because responding too quickly could legitimize the accusations, but staying silent could make things look even worse. It was a delicate situation, and while the public speculated, FIBA was carefully preparing its next move. Meanwhile, the online conversation reached its peak. Hashtags related to the controversy began trending globally. Influencers, former players, and even some journalists started weighing in. Every new post added fuel to the fire, and in the middle of all this noise, one thing was missing: facts. There was still no concrete proof of bots influencing the MVP decision. No verified reports, no official confirmations, just theories. But in the digital age, theories can feel just as powerful as reality, especially when they're repeated enough times. And that's exactly what was happening, and the story had taken on a life of its own. At this point, it didn't even matter how the controversy started. What mattered was how it would end. Would FIBA step in and shut everything down? Would they launch an investigation? Or would they reveal something no one expected? The tension was building. Fans refreshed their feeds, waiting for updates. Analysts prepared their takes, and the basketball world held its breath because everyone knew. When FIBA finally spoke, it wouldn't just be a statement, it would shape the entire narrative. And then, the response came, and it wasn't what people expected. When FIBA finally broke their silence, the entire basketball world stopped to listen. This wasn't just another press release. This was the moment that would either calm the storm or make it even bigger. And the statement was released across official channels, clean, direct, and carefully worded. No emotion, no speculation, just facts. Or at least what FIBA wanted the public to understand as facts. And right from the beginning, one thing was clear. FIBA was not taking the accusations lightly. They acknowledged the online discussions surrounding the MVP decision and the claims about potential bot activity. That alone was enough to confirm that the controversy had reached a level too big to ignore. But what came next caught many people off guard. FIBA stated that the MVP selection process for the tournament was not influenced by public voting systems in the way many fans assumed. Let that sink in. According to FIBA, the MVP was determined through an internal evaluation process involving official selectors, analysts, and basketball experts, not through social media polls or online fan engagement. In simple terms, even if bots existed, they wouldn't have changed the outcome. That single clarification shifted the entire conversation. Because up until that point, most of the outrage had been built on the assumption that online manipulation directly affected the result. But now, FIBA was essentially saying, you're arguing about something that doesn't actually decide the MVP. For some fans, this was enough. They accepted the explanation, seeing it as a logical breakdown of how the system works. If fan votes weren't a deciding factor, then the bot theory lost a lot of its power. The focus, once again, could return to basketball, to performance, impact, and merit, but not everyone was convinced. Because while FIBA denied that bots influenced the final decision, they didn't completely dismiss the possibility of unusual online activity. And that detail kept the controversy alive. Critics began to analyze the statement more closely. They pointed out that FIBA had addressed the effect of bots, but not necessarily their existence. In other words, FIBA said bots didn't impact the MVP result, but they didn't clearly say whether bots were present or not. That subtle difference mattered, because now a new question emerged. If bots didn't affect the decision, then why were they there in the first place? Or were they even real at all? The ambiguity left room for interpretation. And in a situation like this, ambiguity can be dangerous. Some fans saw it as transparency. The others saw it as a carefully crafted response designed to protect the organization's image without fully addressing every concern. And just like that, the debate evolved once again. Now, instead of asking, was the MVP rigged? People were asking, is FIBA being completely honest? That's a much bigger question, because it doesn't just challenge one decision, it challenges trust in the entire system. Meanwhile, supporters of Caitlin Clark felt that the statement validated what they had been saying all along. They argued that the controversy had unfairly targeted Clark, dragging her name into a situation that had nothing to do with her performance. From their perspective, FIBA's response confirmed that she earned the MVP based on merit, not manipulation. And they had a point. If the official process relied on experts and internal evaluation, then Clark's award was a result of her impact on the court. Her vision, her leadership, her ability to control games, those were the factors that mattered. But in the world of sports, perception is just as important as reality. And even with FIBA's statement, not everyone was ready to move on. Because controversies like this don't disappear instantly. They linger. They evolve. They leave behind questions that don't always have clear answers. At the same time, media coverage intensified. Sports networks began breaking down FIBA's statement line by line. Analysts debated whether the response was strong enough, clear enough, or even necessary in the first place. Some praised FIBA for addressing the issue quickly and professionally. Others criticized them for not providing more detailed evidence or transparency. And then there were those who believed the entire situation had been blown out of proportion from the start. They argued that in today's digital world, any major achievement is bound to face backlash, especially when it involves a high-profile athlete like Caitlin Clark. In their eyes, this wasn't a scandal. It was a symptom of modern sports culture. A culture where success is constantly questioned, narratives are shaped by algorithms, and truth often competes with speculation for attention. But even if that's true, it doesn't make the controversy meaningless, because situations like this reveal something deeper about the relationship between fans, organizations, and athletes. They show how quickly trust can be shaken, how easily narratives can shift, and how important transparency has become in an era where information spreads faster than ever before. For FIBA, this was more than just a statement. It was a test of credibility, a test of communication, and a test of how well they could manage a global conversation that was growing by the minute. And while their response answered some questions, it also created new ones. Because now, the focus wasn't just on what happened, but on what happens next. Will FIBA take further action? Will they investigate the alleged bot activity? Will they change how they communicate these decisions in the future? Or will this simply fade away as the next big story takes over? One thing was certain. The Caitlin Clark MVP controversy was no longer just about a single award. It had become a case study in how modern sports, social media, and public perception collide. And the story was far from over. Even after FIBA released its official statement, the noise didn't die down. In fact, in some ways, it became even louder. Because when people don't get complete closure, they don't stop talking, they start digging deeper. And that's exactly what happened next. The conversation began to shift away from just Caitlin Clark and the MVP award and towards something much bigger, the role of social media in shaping modern sports narratives. This wasn't just about one controversy anymore, it was about a system where perception can spread faster than truth, a system where a single viral post can influence millions of opinions within minutes. And most importantly, A system where athletes are no longer just competing on the court, they're also being judged in the digital arena 24/7. As fans continued to analyze every detail, more theories started to emerge. Some users claimed that even if fan votes didn't directly determine the MVP, social media pressure could still influence decision-makers indirectly. The argument was simple: if a player dominates the online conversation, builds massive hype, and becomes the face of the tournament, doesn't that create a bias, even subconsciously? It's not about bots controlling the outcome. It's about momentum shaping perception, and perception influencing decisions. This idea added a new layer to the controversy, because now, even without bots, the question remained: was Caitlin Clark's popularity a factor in her MVP selection? That's a much more complicated debate. Unlike bot accusations, which can theoretically be proven or disproven with data, the influence of popularity is harder to measure. It lives in the gray area, somewhere between performance and narrative. And in modern sports, narrative is powerful. Very powerful. Think about it. When a player becomes the story of a tournament, when every highlight, every headline, every discussion revolves around them, it naturally elevates their presence. It makes their moments feel bigger. Their impact feels greater. And sometimes that can tilt perception in their favor. Not because they don't deserve it, but because their story is louder than everyone else's. This is where the Caitlin Clark situation became even more complex. Because on one hand, her performance absolutely justified MVP consideration. There's no denying that. She led, she delivered, she impacted games at the highest level. But on the other hand, she was also the most talked about player in the tournament, the most followed, the most analyzed, the most highlighted. So naturally, people began to wonder, would the result have been the same if another player had identical stats but less attention? It's a difficult question, and one that doesn't have a clear answer. Meanwhile, former players and insiders began sharing their perspectives. Some emphasize that MVP awards have always been influenced by a mix of performance and narrative, even long before social media existed. They argued that storytelling is part of sports, and it's unrealistic to expect decisions to be made in a completely emotionless vacuum. Others, however, pushed for greater transparency. They believed that organizations like FIBA should provide more detailed explanations of how awards are decided. Not just general statements, but clear criteria, voting breakdowns, and accountability measures. Because in today's world, fans don't just want results, they want understanding. They want to know why decisions are made. And if they don't get that clarity, they start creating their own explanations. That's exactly what fueled this controversy in the first place. A lack of visible transparency, combined with a highly engaged global audience, equals speculation. And speculation, when repeated enough times, starts to feel like truth. At the same time, the situation also highlighted another reality of modern sports culture: the pressure placed on athletes themselves. Through all of this, Caitlin Clark remained relatively quiet. No major statements, no direct responses to the controversy, and that silence spoke volumes, because sometimes saying nothing is a way of staying focused. But it can also be interpreted in many different ways. Some fans respected her approach, seeing it as professionalism. They believed she was letting her performance speak for itself, refusing to get dragged into online drama. Others wished she would address the situation directly, to clear the air and put an end to the speculation. But here's the reality. Athletes are not responsible for controlling narratives created by millions of people online. That responsibility falls on organizations, media, and the audience itself. And in this case, all three played a role in shaping how the story unfolded. As days passed, the intensity of the controversy began to stabilize. But it didn't disappear. It shifted. From outrage to analysis, from reaction to reflection. People started looking at the bigger picture. What does this mean for future tournaments? Will FIBA change how they communicate awards? Will fans trust MVP decisions the same way moving forward? Because once trust is questioned, even slightly, it changes how people view everything that comes after. And that might be the most important impact of this entire situation. Not the award itself, not the controversy, but the conversation it created. A conversation about fairness, about transparency, about the power of social media, and about how quickly a moment of celebration can turn into a global debate. But just when it seemed like things were starting to settle down, another twist began to emerge, because behind the scenes, new details were starting to surface. Details that could either confirm everything or completely change the narrative once again. Just when it seemed like the controversy had reached its peak, something unexpected happened. The conversation didn't fade. It evolved again, because new details, or at least what people believed were new details, started circulating online. Screenshots, data breakdowns, insider claims. Suddenly, the internet was flooded with supposed evidence. Some users claimed they had tracked unusual engagement patterns tied to specific posts about Caitlin Clark. Others shared side-by-side comparisons showing how certain content gained traction at a speed that didn't look natural. A few even went as far as suggesting that organized digital campaigns might exist, not necessarily tied to FIBA, but possibly to external groups looking to influence narratives around major athletes. Now, whether any of this was verified or not, didn't matter in the moment, because it looked convincing. And in the world of social media, if something looks convincing, it spreads. Fast, very fast. The conversation was no longer just about bots or MVP voting. It had grown into something much bigger, a discussion about digital influence in sports culture. Think about it. We live in an era where athletes are brands, where popularity translates into visibility. Visibility translates into engagement. And engagement can shape perception on a massive scale. So naturally, people began asking a deeper question. Is it possible that modern sports outcomes, or at least how they're perceived, are being influenced by digital ecosystems more than we realize? It's a powerful idea, and a slightly uncomfortable one. Because if true, it would mean that sports are no longer just about what happens on the court, but also about what happens online. At the same time, more balanced voices started entering the conversation. Data analysts and tech-savvy users pushed back against some of the more extreme claims. They explained that viral spikes in engagement don't automatically mean bots. Sometimes it's just how algorithms work. When a topic gains momentum, platforms push it to more users. More users engage, and suddenly, it looks like an unnatural surge, when in reality, it's just amplified organic activity. In other words, not everything suspicious is artificial. This added another layer of complexity, because now there were two competing interpretations of the same data. One side saw manipulation, the other saw normal algorithm behavior. And without clear, verifiable evidence, it became nearly impossible to definitively prove either side right. Meanwhile, the role of media became even more important. Some outlets began treating the story more cautiously, emphasizing that no official investigation had confirmed any wrongdoing. Others continued to highlight the controversy, focusing on the unanswered questions and the ongoing debate. This difference in coverage created two parallel narratives, one suggesting that the situation was overblown, the other implying that something deeper might still be unresolved. And in between those narratives was the audience, trying to figure out what to believe. For Caitlin Clark, this phase of the controversy was perhaps the most challenging, not because of direct accusations, but because of the uncertainty surrounding everything. When criticism is clear, it can be addressed, but when it's vague, shifting, and constantly evolving, it becomes harder to respond to. Because what exactly are you responding to? A theory, a possibility, a perception? That's the difficult reality of being at the center of a viral controversy. And yet, despite all the noise, one thing remained consistent: her performance. No matter what people said online, no matter how the narrative shifted, the games themselves didn't change. Her impact didn't change. And for many fans, that was the most important point of all. Because at the end of the day, awards should reflect what happens on the court, not what trends online. Still, the controversy had already left its mark. It had sparked conversations that went far beyond a single tournament. Conversations about how awards are decided, how much transparency is enough, how social media influences perception, and how quickly narratives can spiral out of control. These are not small topics. These are structural questions, and they don't disappear overnight. Even as the intensity of the situation began to cool, the underlying issues remained. Because once people start questioning a system, they don't just forget about it. They remember, they watch more closely, they analyze more deeply, and they react more quickly the next time something feels off. That's the long-term impact of controversies like this. They change how audiences engage with the sport, And that might be the most significant outcome of all. Not whether bots existed, not whether the MVP decision was influenced, but how the entire basketball community now views moments like this moving forward. And just when it seemed like all angles had been explored, there was still one final piece left. Because every story like this eventually leads to one question. What does it all mean? For Caitlin Clark, for FIBA, and for the future of the game itself. And that's where everything comes together. At some point, every controversy reaches a moment where the noise begins to fade, and the meaning begins to take shape. This was that moment, because after all the debates, all the theories, all the arguments and counter-arguments, the Caitlin Clark MVP controversy was no longer just about what happened. It was about what it revealed. And what it revealed was bigger than anyone expected. First, it exposed just how powerful social media has become in shaping the narrative of sports. Not the outcome of games, not the reality of performance, but the perception of both. A single idea, even without confirmed evidence, was able to spread across the world in hours. It influenced discussions, divided opinions, and forced one of the biggest basketball organizations on the planet to respond publicly. That's not a small thing. That's a shift in how sports operate in the digital age. Because today, fans are no longer just spectators. They are participants in the narrative. They analyze, they question, they investigate, and sometimes they amplify. Whether the information is accurate or not, that's the reality of modern sports culture. And this situation showed exactly how quickly things can escalate when those dynamics come into play. Second, it highlighted the importance of transparency. FIBA did respond. They clarified their process. They addressed the concerns. But even then, questions remained. Not necessarily because something was wrong, but because in today's world, partial clarity often isn't enough. Fans want details. They want to understand not just the result, but the entire process behind it. They want to see how decisions are made, who makes them, and why those decisions are justified. And if they don't get that level of transparency, they start filling in the gaps themselves. That's exactly what happened here. And it's something that organizations will have to adapt to moving forward. Because the audience has changed, expectations have changed, and the demand for accountability has never been higher. Third, and perhaps most importantly, this controversy revealed something about the pressure placed on athletes in the modern era. Because through all of this, Caitlin Clark remained at the center. Not because she created the controversy, not because she fueled it, but because she was the face of it. That's what happens when you reach a certain level of visibility. Every achievement becomes bigger. Every mistake becomes louder. And every narrative, even ones you didn't create, becomes attached to your name. That's the cost of being a star in today's world. And yet, despite everything, one thing never changed. Her performance, her impact on the court, her ability to lead, create, and deliver under pressure. Because at the end of the day, that's what got her there in the first place. Not bots, not hype, not algorithms. Basketball, pure undeniable basketball. And that's something that often gets lost in moments like this. We get so focused on the noise around the game that we forget to look at the game itself. But if you step back, just for a second, and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear. Caitlin Clark didn't become one of the biggest names in basketball because of controversy. She became that because of consistency, skill, work ethic, and impact. And those things can't be manufactured. They can't be faked. They can't be created by bots or boosted by algorithms in any meaningful way. They have to be earned. Still, that doesn't mean the controversy was meaningless. Far from it. Because moments like this serve as reminders. Reminders that sports are evolving. That the way we consume them, discuss them, and interpret them is changing rapidly. And that with that change comes new challenges. Challenges around trust, around information, around perception, and how those elements interact with the game itself. For FIBA, this was a learning moment, an opportunity to understand how quickly narratives can grow and how important it is to address them clearly and confidently. For fans, it was a reminder to question, but also to verify, to engage, but also to think critically. And for athletes like Caitlin Clark, it was another chapter in a career that is already shaping the future of the sport. Because whether people support her, criticize her, or debate her impact, they are talking about her. And in sports, that level of attention is powerful. It drives growth. It brings new audiences. It pushes the game forward. And maybe, just maybe, that's the biggest takeaway from all of this. Not the controversy itself, but the fact that women's basketball is now at a point where moments like this can capture global attention, where debates like this can trend worldwide, where players like Caitlin Clark can become central figures in conversations that go far beyond the court. That's growth, that's evolution, and that's the future. Because at the end of the day, the story isn't about bots. It's not about accusations. It's not even about one MVP award. It's about how the game is changing and how we're all part of that change, whether we realize it or not. And as the dust settles, one thing is certain: this won't be the last time a moment like this happens, but next time, everyone will be watching a little more closely. So what do you think about this entire situation? Was Caitlin Clark's MVP 100% deserved based on performance? Or do you believe the controversy raises real questions about transparency in modern basketball? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because this is one debate that's far from over. And if you made it this far, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss breaking stories like this. We're covering everything, from rising stars to major controversies, all in one place. Share this video with your friends and let's get the conversation going worldwide. Because in today's game, it's not just about what happens on the court, it's about what the world believes. Hashtag Caitlin Clark, hashtag WNBA, hashtag FIBA, hashtag basketball news, hashtag MVP controversy, hashtag sports drama, hashtag breaking news, hashtag women in sports, hashtag basketball fans. Hashtag viral sports at WNBA, at FIBA, at ESPN, at Bleacher Report, at SportsCenter.